It is 4 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand to sing O Canada. I'll ask the clerk for the roll call. Present.
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 Sorry, we'll try that again with the microphone on. Sorry, folks. Mayor Sue Patterson,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Warren Dickert,
Present.
Councillor Harold Fleet,
Present.
Councillor Dave Hawking. Has Dave returned?
Yes.
Councillor Hawking,
Present.
thank you. Councillor Carol Hudson,
Present.
Councillor Brandon Cable,
Present.
Councillor Susan Zacco.
Present. Thank you. All members are accounted for. We'll begin with our land acknowledgement. As we work toward reconciliation with Indigenous people, we begin our meeting today by respectfully acknowledging that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. So welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, October 16th, 2023. Good afternoon, council, staff, guests, the viewing public, and the media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? Seeing none, if one should arise during the meeting, you may declare it then. Following our agenda, item 5 is additions or deletions, and we do not have any. And item 6 is our public meeting. And just to share how the process works, the clerk will provide the method of notice for the public meeting. Our Director of Development and Planning will give an overview of the amendments. Then the floor will be open to members of the public who may wish to speak to the proposed amendments. Then the floor will be closed and council will discuss the amendments before a vote is taken. So we'll start with the method of notice by the clerk.
Notice for the public meeting was mailed to all commenting agencies on September 25th, 2023, in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. The notice was posted on the Town of Hanover website, circulated to abutting landowners within 120 meters of the subject lands, and was also posted on the subject lands. The application was reviewed by the Planning Advisory Committee on October 10th, 2023. No comments have been received.
Thank you. So this is official plan amendment OPA 6 and zoning bylaw amendment Z423 for Neat Roll Investments Limited. And I'll ask our Director of Building and Planning and CBO to give an overview of the amendments. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so this is a public meeting for lands known as 1047 10th Street. This is an amendment to the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment to allow for a financial institution in our C3 large format commercial lands, as well as site specific to vary the parking for this specific property. Advertised as the clerk outlined. Comments were actually received a little later than typical from Grey County. I do have those comments here, and I would like to read those now if I could. Just bear with me, it's about 4 pages. The purpose of the official plan amendment, LOPA number 6, is to amend the Town of Hanover official plan and add financial institution as a site-specific permitted use on lands municipally known as 1047 10th Street within a large format commercial designation. The effect of the official plan would be to permit a financial institution, including drive-through banking facilities on the subject property. The zoning bylaw amendment, Z4-23, this amendment, proposes to rezone the subject property to incorporate a special exemption to permit a financial institution use and the reduction in parking requirements from 96 stalls to 74 stalls. As a background, the town's official plan currently limits the location of financial institutions to the downtown commercial designation only, RC1. Section D3 of the town's official plan provides the general planning policies and objectives of the downtown commercial designation, which includes the goal of promoting Hanover's downtown as the commercial, civic, social, administrative, and cultural center of the town, as well as a high-quality residential neighborhood. Schedule A of the county's official plan designates the subject lands as primary settlement area. Section 3-5 bracket 3 states the official plan promotes the development of primary settlement areas land use types for a full range of residential, commercial, industrial, recreational, and institutional land uses. These areas will be the focus of the majority of growth within the county. The proposed development is a commercial use which would contribute to the general function of the primary settlement area. Staff would note that a servicing study has not been undertaken to support this proposal. County staff would recommend that the town of Hanover ensure they are satisfied that sufficient servicing is available to service the proposed use. We have had discussions with Public Works, and that servicing is indeed there to handle that capacity. Grey County Economic Department staff have reviewed the proposal and provided the following general comments for consideration. Banks are drivers of the customer traffic to downtown small businesses. Surrounding businesses would therefore likely benefit from banks remaining in the downtown area. While it is not clear at this time whether the bank owners intend to close the current downtown location, economic development staff would question whether there is any further support that the town might provide to the applicant to improve the current downtown location to achieve their business needs. Some support may be available for the town's CIP in that respect. As businesses evolved, there may be tensions with planning policies and ideas that do not always align with the current business practices. From the above, county economic development staff are cognizant that there are potentially both positive and negative economic benefits of permitting banks to relocate out of the downtown area. There are no policies within the county's official plan that would prevent the addition of financial institution as a permitted use within the large format commercial designation. County planning staff would offer the following general comments and ideas for consideration. The county's OP values downtown areas as opportunities for economic growth and supports local municipalities to enhance their downtown areas. Section 3.4 bracket 17 of the county's official plan states local municipalities are encouraged to preserve and revitalize traditional main streets, downtowns, and commercial areas. Renewed investment is encouraged in downtowns to support retention and development of retail, personal service, office, entertainment, tourism, and specialty shopping activities to meet local, regional, and tourist needs. The viability of the downtown should be reinforced through continued efforts to provide a mix of residential, institutional, and community activities. Given the above, the county is supportive of opportunities to collaborate with the applicants to ensure that the current downtown bank location continues to meet the growth demands of an evolving bank industry while continuing to support the needs of local residents. Point 2, generally, the county's official plan is supportive of communities and services that are walkable and accessible to members of public. The downtown core area is easily walkable from surrounding residential communities, while the proposed location is not. Locating a branch at a new location could result in a less accessible outcome for communities without access to personal vehicles should the downtown branch close in future. Point 3, if the applicant's business model is premised on the need that an ATM drive-through, which is shown on the potential redevelopment, staff would inquire whether the business might consider an ATM drive-through kiosk at an alternate location outside of the downtown core. This may have benefit of strengthening access to drive-through banking services while maintaining the resilience of the downtown branch. Grey County Transportation had no concerns. Grey County Planning Ecology had no concerns. Grey County Planning staff recommended consulting the Healthy Development Checklist as it has some tools and recommendations that are applicable to the proposed development, such as infrastructure, energy conservation, stormwater management, green buildings. Essentially, not to read all of this, the Healthy Development Checklist by the county, really a lot of it is a provision that comes into place when there is a site plan control agreement. A lot of those items on there are applicable at that point in time. To summarize, Grey County planning staff acknowledge that there are no policies within the county's official plan nor the provincial policy statement that would prohibit the town from permitting financial institutions as a permitted use within the large format commercial designation, and would largely defer to Hanover for a decision on this matter. That said, the county would encourage the town to pursue further conversations with the applicant to determine if there may be opportunities to work collaboratively to improve the current downtown location to support the growth, resilience, and accessibility of the business at its current location. County staff have no further comments at this time and would like to be apprised of the decision. On September 22nd, 2023, Cobite Engineering, who is here today, and will provide some background basis for their justification. Were the representatives for Neat Roll Investments submitted an application for an official plan amendment and local zoning bylaw amendment to incorporate a special exemption to permit financial institution use and a reduced parking from 96 to 74 spaces at 1074 10th Street. This amendment would involve incorporating site-specific policy of zoning regulations to authorize the proposed financial use. The property is currently zoned as large format commercial. The subject lands are approximately half a hectare with an existing 950 square meter building that currently houses Chuck's Roadhouse, First Choice Haircutters, and Easy Home. The proposal is in the parking lot, in that parking lot immediately west of that building. The intention here is to facilitate a 5,600 square foot bank that will include a drive-in window option. According to section D 5.3.1 of the Town of Hanover official plan, certain uses that are not compatible with the compact nature of the downtown area, mainly due to space and parking demands, are permitted in large format commercial zones. The proposed project aligns with this provision and will facilitate the relocation and expansion. Notably, the inclusion of a drive-through service, which is currently not available in the downtown area, nor really could it, will offer added convenience for customers. Furthermore, the proposed building adheres to the designated building size requirements in our bylaw. The proposed amendment seeks to designate the lands as large format commercial special zone C3-46. This designation would permit the establishment of a financial institution with the parking relief that we've talked about. As per section 613(2) of the comprehensive zoning bylaw, when a building accommodates multiple types of use, the total parking space requirements should equal the sum of the requirements of each distinct use. The existing commercial building covering an area of 905 square meters necessitates 61 parking spots. Meanwhile, the proposed financial institution spanning 520 square meters requires 35 parking spots to adequately serve the needs according to our comprehensive zoning bylaw. Dana will speak to the justification in reducing those spaces. The site plan currently proposed is resulting of a shortfall of 22 spaces. The proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the Planning Act, provincial policy statement, Grey County official plan, and Town of Hanover official plan. There are no financial implications to the town for this report. The recommendation is that PB 24-23 public meeting for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment Neat Roll Investments be received, and that council pass bylaws number 3281-23 and 3282-23. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. So Dana, would you like to speak now? And if you, did anyone show you with a button? There's a person there.
As I say, it's not my first rodeo. Good afternoon, council. My name is Dana Kiefer. I'm a senior development planner with Cobat Engineering just up the road. So we provided the planning justification report that went along with these applications. Andrew did a really great job highlighting a lot of the policies and reading the county comments. So I'll try to keep my comments pretty high level about what I'm going to highlight for you, okay? The subject lands are located in a commercial area on the east side of Hanover. I would also mention that significant infrastructure investments have already been made at this location. There's the internal road that intersects Highway 4. A street light is present, and there are dedicated right and left-hand turning lanes into this internal road that services Walmart and Mark's Work Warehouse. The subject lands include approximately half that internal road, and there's corresponding easements for the surrounding businesses to be able to use it. The proposed local official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment are consistent with the Grey County official plan. The subject lands will be fully serviced and offer and maximize an existing commercial site, permit the established business to expand and offer new services to their client. The proposed new use is consistent with the wide range of uses permitted in the primary settlement area designation of the Grey County official plan. It is proposed it can be expected that businesses in the community needs and requirements will grow, evolve, and adapt over time. The facility that BMO proposes to construct will fulfill their evolving needs and allow the business to stay in Hanover, offering a new service delivery model, being that drive-through banking option that they're proposing. Therefore, there is demonstrated need for the development, and the location is ideal to provide a drive-through service. The proposed additional use will maximize this existing site and not interfere with any other businesses that are out there. A financial institution is proposed to be added as a permitted use. We are also requesting a reduction in parking requirements. The required parking is 96 stalls, and so we're requesting 74. I did want to highlight for council that your parking requirements for the two specific uses are a little bit higher than surrounding municipalities. That's your guys' prerogative, it's your guys' bylaw, but I did want to highlight that they were a little bit more than the surrounding municipalities. I also wanted to highlight that given the potential difference in timings of the commercial tenants, there'll be opportunities for parking sharing. So for example, Chuck's Roadhouse, you would think is probably going to get busy after 5. The bank is going to be closed at that time. So there's going to be some movement and ability in parking spots there. Also, due to the bank offering a drive-through window, it could be further expected that people are going to utilize that service and not park their cars and go into the bank using less parking stalls. Parking standards, reflect more of an average condition. So it's never going to exactly match your parking demand. And this is really especially true when you have a mix of commercial uses in one area using all one parking lot. That concludes the things that I wanted to highlight for council out of my report, but I'm very happy to answer any questions if you have any at the appropriate time.
Okay, thanks, Dana. Are there any other members that would like to speak? And yes, yeah. And I will ask a second time if there's any other members of the public who would like to speak. And the third and final time, the floor is closed. So now we have report PB 24-23, and this is item 6.1 on our agenda. The subject is the zoning bylaw amendments and the official plan amendments. And it's from Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Building and Planning and CBO, and I need a mover and seconder to put it on the floor before we discuss. I have Deputy Mayor and Councillor Fleet. So council, questions, comments, while we have everyone here? And remind me if I miss anyone online. We'll start with you, Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Andrew and Dana, for the information. And the county comments, they do bring some good points to light there regarding, the vitality of downtown. However, I also recognize the banking industry has changed significantly over the years, and adding the drive-through part, I wouldn't want to handcuff our businesses in town to not be able to evolve with those changes that take place in that industry. So I for one think it's great to see new investment in new buildings and added services to our community. So I for one support the concept of approving this change. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Andrew and Dana, for your report. Just a couple questions. Dana, you made a comment, stay in Hanover. Has there been any indication from BMO that they would leave Hanover if this project didn't go?
Through you, Your Worship, if I may, those are not conversations I have had. At this point, they're exploring a new location. There hasn't really been a decision that they are going to close that downtown branch either. This is really setting up the ability to have a new location. We haven't had a conversation that they're going to leave if they can't do it.
The banking world is getting smaller, and with, in Chesley, they're losing their bank. And it's a concern for me that maybe you'll see this industry get smaller, online banking. It's a real concern that we still might end up with an empty building on our main street if we don't go ahead with this project. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Andrew. That was a lot of talking. Big breath. So a couple of points that the county made, point 2 and point 3, actually, because of the walkability for some of our residents. And as you know, we do have a lot of older people in our municipality. And so we do not have a public transportation system. So it is a bit of a deterrent for a lot of our community members who have actually been very loyal customers of that particular bank since it was way down, the original one. So is there any communication about perhaps doing that option of having a kiosk and keeping for the drive-through part and keeping still the downtown core bank available for those people?
Through you, Your Worship. Again, those aren't conversations that we have had. The BMO was very clear that they haven't necessarily decided that they are going to close that downtown location. So unfortunately, it's not a conversation I've had with them.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Through Your Worship. Through Your Worship, I would say really right now at this point, it's kind of, it's an idea, it's an option based on the county comments. Doesn't feel like it's an option that's being considered by the bank at this time. You know, I'm sure they would do a study or a market review as to what the effect is of them leaving downtown before they were actually to do that. And hopefully they would have an understanding of what potentially could be lost by potentially leaving that location. You know, in addition to that, and Councillor Fleet, I agree, we don't want an empty building downtown. You know, our economic development would work with, you know, that building owner if they were to leave in an effort to fill it, you know, as promptly as possible. It is a good location. Just the current use that's in there now may be evolving where it doesn't make sense for them at this time.
Thanks for those comments. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. Andrew, wondering if you could clarify whether this decision would be in any way precedent setting, allowing other financial institutions to therefore also move out of the downtown.
Through your worship, perhaps somewhat. I mean, this is a site specific ticket item here. So this is just any financial institution that wanted to leave downtown would technically go through the same process. However, you know, we would be granting this request, which could, you know, preempt future applications from doing the same. As communities grow and get larger, there's a requirement for them, and we see it in other large municipalities where this happens. This happened in other municipalities in Grey County. So while it's the first, we have another financial institution that's not downtown. Technically, our Scotiabank is legal non-conforming. It's been in there prior to the bylaw is being updated. But I would say to an degree, this could be looked at as precedent setting.
Go ahead, Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. Just wondering if Andrew, if you could clarify what would happen if this were not to be approved? What would happen then? And based on Grey County's comments that there's no policies to prevent financial institutions in the C3 zone, what would be your thoughts on that?
Your worship, if it wasn't approved? I mean, well, it could be appealed. You know, like the comments say, yeah, I would say this is a council decision. The policies that are in place, you know, really don't not allow for, you know, kind of this to move forward. I guess I would say that based on the decision, it would be the applicant's decision if they'd like to appeal it or not. Councillor Cable, beyond that,
A response, Councillor Cable?
Sorry, I'm having trouble getting unmuted. No, I appreciate the clarification, Andrew, and you know, certainly I appreciate that the world of finance is changing and evolving, and we know that our town will continue to grow in different ways, but certainly that economic development piece in our downtown core is certainly a concern, and I would hate to see this building sit vacant in the downtown, because we do know that it's a very large footprint, which might also be hindering BMO from staying there. But hopefully that is something that we can look at. And I believe that April had made a good comment at the planning meeting around getting in touch with BMO staff and making sure that the town is advised of any future plans for that building if they were to decide to move to the.
Thank you, Councillor Cable. Andrew, can you speak to discussion during the planning meeting that there was no concerns on this?
Through your worship, yes, there was good conversation. Many of those members have been a part of the community for quite some time. They had a little more historical perspective on our town's official plan and, you know, the past, kind of how we've got here and how the thought process has been keeping our financial institutions in our C1 really to drive people to go down there. There was some conversations at that time, as I understand, about potentially a drive-through option. And if that were to come into play, it not being an option down there. So that was a discussion, some time ago, 10 years ago or so, when that was discussed last time. Beyond that, I don't know if there's anything specific.
Very good. Any other comments? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. Andrew, this parking issue, is this something that we should be readdressing with Dana's comments? Are we asking for too much?
Through your worship, I would say in our most recent housekeeping amendment bylaw, we addressed the parking, we reduced the parking really in our multi-res residential, dropping it to 1.25 for the first 20 and 1 after that. If you recall, many of you will recall, it was really a hot topic item. We were back and forth a lot on the parking demands and requirements. Obviously, we are trying to intensify. The larger the parking areas, the less building location there is available. The county continues to push us to intensify. You don't really want to drive by and just see a massive parking lot. It'd be nice for it to fit in. So yes, I think there is, I think we could look at maybe reducing some additional parking requirements in our commercial areas, which we didn't look at in the past. It was only residential, but I think that's something we could look at in a coming housekeeping amendment.
Yeah, I agree. With our mixed use developments, I think, we should readdress that. And, if we can get a report back to council, I'd sort of appreciate it. So thank you.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if we decide to go ahead with this, Andrew, and BMO decides they do not want to put their facility there, then it's usable for other property development as well. Is that correct?
Through your worship, yes, this would be approving a financial institution going on that property. Technically, if it wasn't BMO, another financial institution potentially could go out there. However, it could, on that property, something could be built that's already in our comprehensive zoning bylaw, a retail space or a restaurant or anything along those lines.
Other questions or comments? And I don't see any online. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor of report PB 24-23? Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. All right, item 7 on our agenda is delegations, and we have one, and it is Rivera Long-Term Care Update. And we have Paul McCorkindale, and do we have Gilbert here or just Paul? So, okay, both Gilbert Schiller is here also. So welcome, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, councilors and Madam Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. We wanted to come forward and provide an update on the project. As you're well aware, we currently have a village seniors community here in Hanover, which we are working with yourselves and with the province to redevelop the community into a new 128-bed long-term care home just across the street from the hospital. We, as I mentioned, have been working very closely with staff to advance this with the support of yourselves as well. And unfortunately, as I'm sure some of you or most of you are all quite aware, in the month of August, there was, in addition to recent interest rate run-ups, there was another interest rate run-up in the month that unfortunately, when we went to our lenders, pushed the project into an unfeasible state. And currently, we've paused the project, not to say that we are not advancing or do not have the intent of advancing with it as fast as possible, but are working with our stakeholders, primarily the province, to work this out. And the province is committed to assisting with that, along with hundreds of other proponents that are in a similar position right now as they try and advance their projects. But as we were all running towards a deadline that was set for the end of August, ran into the challenge of getting financing for the projects. So as I say, we continue to work collaboratively, not just with staff, but also with the province to resolve this issue. We're very encouraged by the progress that we've made, particularly with the province in this regard. Unfortunately, I can't say with certainty what the timeline looks like to get shovels in the ground. But what I can say is that we continue to work with staff to address a couple minor issues, but also to starting some of the infrastructure work required to the site in order to prep it so that once we do have the commitments from the province, we can blast forward and get construction underway. Paul, I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add, but I certainly would welcome any questions that may be in the room.
I don't have anything further, Gilbert. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Gilbert and Paul, and I will open it up to council for questions or comments. I'm sure there's a few. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your presentation. Just one quick question I have is, you guys were granted extra beds by the province. What happens to the extra beds if you guys don't go ahead with this project?
The beds they're not going anywhere. They are going to get developed by us. We have full intention of doing so. We're fairly fortunate, or we are fortunate, I would say, that the province has made this a priority item. So we're very, as I say, fortunate in that regard that they've made promises to the electorate that these beds are going to get built. So we have nothing but confidence that through continuing to work with the province that we'll get these beds in the ground in short order.
So there's no chance of losing these extra beds?
At this time, no.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Councillor Hudson and then Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Gilbert. A question for you. The facility that you currently have is independent living, assisted living, and long-term care. So the independent and assisted living, are they still being operated by Revera, or do they have someone else running them? And do you still own those two properties?
Certainly. First question, how much time do you have?
I'm good.
I only ask because we recently transitioned management of the villages to another company called Extendicare. But to answer your question directly, Revera still owns the community as a whole. We are actually working with Andrew Wilkinson to ensure that the community continues to operate in its current fashion well into the future. Post the redevelopment of the long-term care home beds. As you know, those beds are being developed at another location, but it is our intent to continue to operate that community well into the future.
Thank you. And just on a side note of that, we've been given information not too long ago regarding severance of the long-term care facility. So is it going to continue being part of that 3 housing unit?
Right now, we're just looking to ensure optionality of the site. Currently, the existing long-term care building has reached its functional obsolescence. So we'll be looking for solutions for how to best utilize that site. It's a little bit early to say definitively, but I think that some form of housing on the site is likely the best use for that site, but that remains to be determined.
I can continue. So do I understand that the use of that particular building for the long-term care it expires in 2025? And
That is-
if that isn't the case, then will the new build be completed in time for that to happen?
That is a question, Councillor Hudson, that I can only answer partially. One is you're spot on. Yes, the license does expire in June of 2025 for the existing beds at that home. However, in anticipation that those beds will continue to operate beyond that period, assuming that the government does provide an extension to the license, we have taken measures to ensure that the safety of that building is maintained for its existing residents and future residents that may choose to live there until such time as the new community is built. And some of those steps would include the building is fully sprinklered for fire suppression. It's fully air conditioned for the residents living there. And as well, there is a full backup generator support for the building in the event of a power outage. And those are three main risks that we look to alleviate in any time we're operating older LTC communities such as this one. So to go back to that, the thought would be that the province will end up having to extend the license term, not just for us, but for thousands of other beds in the province that are in a similar position.
And is that likely to happen? Is that sort of a common thing that they will do?
Hard to say. I can't speak for the province, unfortunately, and don't want to be advocating as if I were. It's totally to their prerogative, but from a risk mitigation perspective, I would say that Revera has gone above and beyond as far as ensuring that the safety of the residents are maintained now and into the future until such time as the new long-term care home is built.
Great. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you for the questions.
Councillor Cable?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much for the update. To go back to Councillor Fleet's question around the additional beds that were granted for this build, you said that they will be built and they won't be lost. Are those beds attached specifically to the Hanover build, or are those beds additional to Revera's total number of beds?
I think your question is one in the same, in that the beds have been allocated to Revera as part of that redevelopment. So
Okay.
we're taking beds from the existing home, which is approximately 70 beds. We're actually also redeveloping 36 beds from the Hanover Care Center. And then we received an additional top-up of new beds, which are new to the wider Hanover community.
Okay. And is there a jurisdiction in where these beds need to be built? Like, is there a possibility that they would not be built across from the Hanover District Hospital?
No, because we have that land secured. So to go and do a land search for another site, I can tell you, and Paul can tell you as well, the amount of time required and the resources required financially to go and chase down alternative sites would be very cost prohibitive to throw in the towel at this point. We've spent a tremendous amount of time. Staff have incorporated a lot of time into this, and so to back out at this point would be I couldn't fathom doing that.
Okay, excellent. No, that's very reassuring. That's great. And my last question is, you made a comment that you're currently working with town staff on a couple of minor issues. Would you be able to expand on those?
Sure. Paul, did you want to take that?
Sure. So right now we are just working on finalizing the site plan agreement and working on the building permit amendment that we have with Andrew. So we've all but finalized the site plan agreement. And building permit has been in since I think March to which amends the stormwater outlet. And those I believe are the two aspects that Gilbert was referring to.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And perhaps this is a question then for town staff, but I believe that the agreement that council approved last month for the stormwater outlet has not proceeded at this point in time. And is the plan to proceed with that this fall, or to re-tender that project in a future year?
Andrew?
Through you, your worship, and Paul or Gilbert, you can jump in. So the validity period for that tender, Councillor Cable, expired on October the 3rd. We did speak to the successful bidder and asked them to extend it to beyond this delegation today. It has been extended with the hopes that the work still can proceed this fall. And that is the intent. As Paul indicated on the site plan control amendment, really the only amendment portion on there, there's some wording in there that talks about we cannot proceed until Revera receives approval from the Ministry of Long-Term Care, which they have said today they do not have. So really it was amending that wording to suit potentially the approval without that ministry approval so that the work could occur. If Paul or Gilbert, if that's out of turn, you let me know.
Yeah, we're ready and prepared to move forward with that infrastructure work. The rationale from our perspective is that if we delay, it potentially would delay us until the end of race season next year, which to us is just too long. And so to preserve optionality, we're optimistic that we're going to come to a resolution with the province well before that. And so rather than losing a potential year of time that we could be in construction, we would like to proceed.
Excellent, thank you very much.
And are prepared to do that.
Councillor Cable, anything further? I'm going to say no. So Gilbert, just to be sure, to be clear, for not only us here in the council chambers, but for our residents, can you speak to those extra beds, the 28 beds, that they cannot be given to another Revera home? They are for this designated area right here in Hanover.
They are designated. Revera was the successful proponent, awarded those beds. We applied for those beds and received them, and they are ours to develop. And it is our complete and unequivocal intention to have those redeveloped at the location across the street from the Hanover Hospital.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just if you could just please tell me again the numbers for the 128. I think you said there were 74 existing long-term care and then 36 from Hanover Care Center. Can you just repeat that for me, please?
Most definitely, yes. So there's existing, the community is licensed for 70 beds. Plus we have the additional 36 from Hanover Care. And then the Delta is 22 beds, which is coming as new capacity to the town of Hanover.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just further to the stormwater management, is there any other infrastructure or site preparation that you would be doing prior to next year? Like if this stormwater project proceeds now, is there any other site grading or things like that that would be happening?
The primary one right now for us is this civil infrastructure, the offsite prep. That's our main objective at this time.
Through your worship, yeah, that new outlet's gonna take on all the dewatering for the site when it actually were to start. So if they were to start, let's say in the spring when it's wet, that would definitely need to be in place for the construction really to take place.
Okay, other, Councillor Fleet?
Thank you, worship. This is probably a town question. Have we been in contact at all with our MPP regarding this issue to try to get the province to move this along, work close with Rivera in support of Hanover?
We have not. In one of our prior conversations with Gilbert and Paul, they suggested that in the future, that may be something that they would ask us to do. And when we have those opportunities, I think the timing needs to be right and some direction from them that this is a good time to do so.
Okay, other comments? All right, so I do want to say thank you very much for the delegation and the information. This update is very important, not only just to council, but to our residents. And I know it is not the best environment for construction or development right now, especially with the high interest rates. And I know you're looking for that second round of funding that the province is going to come forward with. And we're also we're well aware that there's a labor shortage and supply shortage and back order on whatever you do order. I would ask one thing that, we work together. We're looking forward to this new long-term care home being built, and just a little bit of increased communications would go a long way. It would not only help council, but the residents in our community. So thank you very much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, on with our agenda. Item 8, business arising from the minutes. We do not have any. Item 9 is council and committee of the whole minutes. And I need a mover and seconder to put the regular council meeting minutes from September 18th on the floor. So I have Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sackle. You'll remember on that evening, we awarded the project for the net zero fire hall to Dom Construction for about almost $6 million, 5.99. So that was good. And we also had our council highlighted their AMO reports, which was also very good. And if there's any questions or comments, please speak up. Otherwise, I will call the question. All in favor of approving those minutes? I have to remember to look online. That's carried. Item 9.2 is committee of the whole meeting minutes from October 2nd. I need a mover and seconder for those, and I'm going to take Councillor Cable, maybe. Yes. Yes, and Councillor Hawking, just so we get our online working. So you'll remember at that meeting, we observed the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and I outlined the reconciliation measures that we have undertaken to date so far by council. We also approved the fundraising plan for the splash pad project and approved 2 members for boards and committees. And of course, we had lots of reports. And I will call the question. All in favor of the committee of the whole minutes? That is carried. Item 10 is staff reports. 10.1 is report PB 25-23. The subject is municipal development charges. It's from Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Building and Planning, and also our CBO. And I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. And I'll take the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Fleet. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. PB 25-23 municipal development charges. You may recall on March the 6th, report PB 8-23 was a fairly thorough report I provided to council. It was kind of a comparison study of a lot of neighboring municipalities. I think I honed it down to 5. It indicates in here that the report is attached. I understand it wasn't in the package, but was handed out just prior to the meeting, just for reference for this report. It included details with respect to Grey County municipalities that have DC bylaws and conducted a financial analysis considering all the fees involved with a project when you include county development charges, lower tier development charges, building permits, site plan control agreements, consents, parkland dedication. It kind of brought together the total cost of a project in an effort to show where maybe we have been deficient in the past. For development charges to be introduced, a comprehensive review process would need to be undertaken to ensure that the enactment of such charges conforms with the Development Charges Act 1997. The review process would include, but not limited to, additional consultation, resources, and studies to be conducted by a third party. Usually, a lot of these studies have to do with growth projections, costs of existing services, the level of service, that type of thing. At the time of report PB 8-23, it was recommended that direction be taken from new strategic planning being completed in 2023, which we have completed. Our recent strategic plan indicates the following priority in action. Goal 4, balanced growth. Ensuring growth pays for growth and encouraging community conversations about healthy, well-planned growth. Section A, define what amenities, features, facilities will be paid for through development charges. And it gave our timeline. It was a winter of 2024 priority, and engage a consultant to complete a new development charges bylaw in compliance with provincial legislation. The town continues to see growth. We have about 100 building permits. We do have 100 building permits as of today, and more are anticipated. Also, the complexity of these permits are a little greater than maybe they've been in the past as well. To sustain and enhance both existing and new infrastructure, in order to accommodate this expansion, the town will require additional resources. It's worth noting that while the town currently relies on Grey County development charges, most municipalities utilize their own to help foster growth. DC streamlined the pooling of resources from numerous developers, ensuring fair and balanced financing for the creation of vital services. The revenue generated is earmarked for infrastructure development and diverse projects. These charges serve the purpose of supporting development by offering a means to fund capital projects associated with roads, drainage, sewers, water, parkland, among other things. While neighboring municipalities have adopted DCs, Hanover has not, perhaps assisting and contributing to the town's growth in the past. As it's always been said to me, we're pulling from the same pool, a lot of us in our neighboring municipalities. You know, perhaps not having those development charges at some time helped generate some growth to where we are now. However, to enhance our community and provide improved infrastructure and services, the implementation of development charges is an opportunity that merits consideration at this time. The financial implications is through discussions with neighboring municipalities and Grey County planning staff. It is anticipated that a cost for developing and implementing development charges would be approximately $50,000. Additionally, with studies and preliminary work required, the process may take up to a year to complete. Additionally, when or if they were implemented, they are usually imposed or implemented on a percentage basis over a 5-year term. Year 1 development charge would maybe be 20% of what our overall would be. Next year, 40, so on and so forth. However, that would be developed through the development. The $50,000 will be included in the proposed 2024 budget. The link to the strategic plan is safe and reliable infrastructure, strong and vibrant community, and obviously balanced growth. The recommendation is that report PB 25-23 municipal development charges be received, and that council direct staff to proceed with the consideration of development charges and establish a comprehensive review process that includes consultation, resources, and the scope of work to conduct a study by a third-party consultant firm. I will answer any questions you have.
Thank you. So if it takes a year, so effectively, we're looking at 2025 to start.
Through you, your worship, perhaps. Obviously, we've done some studies in the past on growth. I would say when we ultimately have a third-party consultant under contract, some of those previous reports may assist in the timeline, but I would be unsure until that third party was actually in place.
2024 may be a banner year. So Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, your worship, and thank you for the report, Andrew. The one statement you said there is the town currently relies on Grey County DCs, whereas most municipalities utilize their own. I'm not sure what that really means.
Through your worship, me either. I would say, you know, obviously the county does provide us some service. I mean, you know, we're expanding or redeveloping some road networks in town right now. I mean, some of those funds would go to that. You could say, but yes, the development charges we collect for the county, percentage of it we actually see, I guess, would be up for negotiation.
Paramedic services is one we see.
But every member municipality in Grey County has access to those funds for anything. So I just wasn't seeing the significance of that statement, I guess, because that would apply to any municipality in the county. And DC charges we could then use for non-county roads and projects of that nature.
Yeah, through your worship, that's correct. As long as it was associated with the growth portion.
Okay, other comments or questions? Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, your worship. Andrew, walk me through why it would take $50,000 over those 12 months to put all that work together. What exactly is involved? Help me understand, please.
Well, through you, your worship, I've never been through the process fully myself, but to extrapolate, I guess, and identify the proper data to determine what the cost of development charges should be for our municipality, there would have to be considerable research done as to the cost of construction, the amount of construction that is anticipated for the next 5 to 25 years, the costs of the services we provide, whether that be through infrastructure, through public works, police, fire. There would really have to be a full comprehensive review of all of those things to determine what that process would be. To introduce development charges, there's also a public process, which this third-party consulting firm would assist the town to work through. There would be public meetings and open house as a part of that as well. That third party would assist through those processes also.
That's my question. So who's going to do all of that?
Through your worship, hopefully they are as much as possible. Any municipality that we've spoken to, or I've talked to the county as well, they all hire a third party consultant to do this implementation. And I don't see a route where we wouldn't go that route as well.
Councillor Cable, did I see your hand? Or Councillor Hawking? Go ahead, either
you.
one. Okay, Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for the report, Andrew. I'm glad to see that this item from our strategic plan is moving forward. As you said, the purpose of development charges are to ensure that new growth in the town contributes to the costs that are associated with the new growth. And I think of the wastewater treatment plant being an excellent example. And while we want residents to move to Hanover and enjoy all the amenities that we have, the addition of new homes puts pressure on our systems, which are now reaching capacity. And so development charges, had they been in place, hopefully we would have had funds to assist with those additional costs. I'm just wondering, Andrew, if you can clarify, just so that, we know that housing affordability is certainly a challenge at this point in time. And I don't want residents to think that in a time where housing is unaffordable, that we're now adding additional costs to affordable or attainable units. So would you be able to clarify if under the provincial legislation, if affordable and attainable housing is exempt from development charges? And if not, whether we as a council would be able to specify that in our development charge bylaw?
Yes, through your worship, there's all the new legislation that's been coming out, certainly tax on and a development charge exemption to the affordable housing. There's also the term attainable housing that has been out there for quite some time, which we're kind of waiting on a definition for. If that will fall under the same realm, it's unsure. However, yes, the affordability portion to build affordability would be exempt under a development charge bylaw per legislation right now.
Councillor Hawking? You're still muted, Councillor Hawking.
How's that?
Good, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. How's everyone?
We're good.
Okay. Thank you for the report, Andrew. And as I stated previously on this very topic, I believe it's essential for everyone to participate in the cost of our infrastructure. For years, existing taxpayers have paid that. And even though there may be the odd person that moved to Hanover because there was no development charge, I think that that argument is hollow. Because personally, when people say, why did they move to Hanover? It's because of our progressive approach to supply or to provide all the amenities that make us the community we are. I believe Hanover can stand on its own against any other community in Ontario or specifically Grey County. So I am in total support for this report. It's long overdue, and it allows us to build up reserves for these structures that we are going to face down the line. So again, thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Tanya, for unmuting me.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just further, Andrew, you mentioned we've issued 100 building permits this year, but development charges do they apply to like a renovation or it would just be new housing units, does it not? And would it apply to additional residential units, which have become a very popular trend?
Yes, through your worship. Yes, you are correct. Development charges really starts to get into expansion over 50% of the current building. Yes, no ADUs are not in there. Essentially, it essentially starts to talk about new dwelling units is when you get into the development charge. And again, it can be developed however council sees fit. Can have them on certain things, you can not have them on certain things, where that's commercial, industrial, that type of thing. So that when the process gets to that point and it's brought before council, there would be some decisions made on how it could potentially be rolled out and kind of amended as seen fit.
All right, any other comments or questions? None online. I will call the question. All in favor of report PB 2523. And that is carried. Thank you. Item 10.2 is report PB 2723. The subject is encroachment agreement at 369 9th Street, and it's from Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Building and Planning and CBO. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. I have Councillor Hawking and Councillor Hudson. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. PB 27-23 is an encroachment agreement for 369 9th Street. Last September, 2756548 Ontario Inc. was issued a building permit to complete renovations of existing commercial building. We're talking about the building called Little Bloomers Childcare, just immediately adjacent to us here. Upon inspection, during our final review, or near final review, it was noted that there was an error on the drawings in terms of existing elevation changes, where they originally planned to just show a step out of the north exit. However, based on the elevation, they needed more than that. So therefore, to do that, they required to encroach on the town's property. So in the last, I should have put the date, in the last month on 2756548 Ontario Inc. wishes to enter into agreement with the town for an encroachment agreement on 9th Street. The approximate 0.4 of a meter, 16 inches, and 7.85 meter portion of the ramp will encroach on the town property. The ramp won't be 0.4 of a meter wide. That's just the portion that's encroaching on the town property. This is very similar to an encroachment agreement we went into about a year ago for a barrier-free ramp that Hanover Lawn Bowling was looking at, if some of you may recall that. The agreement terms are included in the bylaw. Upon approval, the agreement will be registered on title to the property, and the costs of registration will be paid by the owner for this. The Municipal Act confers broad authority to municipalities to govern their own affairs as they consider appropriate, enhance their ability to respond to municipal issues, including the provision of any service or thing the municipality considers necessary or desirable for the public, and to pass bylaws respecting matters with their prescribed spheres of jurisdiction. We spoke with Public Works on this matter, Ron Cooper, just to ensure that this encroachment wouldn't affect snow removal. This exit gets fairly close to the sidewalk on that property. Based on those conversations, it was not going to be an issue. An encroachment agreement essentially allows us the ability to have that ramp removed at any point if it were to interfere with the town function, as we see. The financial implications are that there are no financial implications with this report. The link to the strategic plan is strong and vibrant community and open and responsible government. And the recommendation is that PB 27-23 encroachment agreement 369 9th Street be received, and that council pass bylaw number 3283-23 authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign an encroachment agreement for 369 9th Street, Hanover, Ontario, lot 4, west side of Mary, registered plan 700.
Thank you. So the owner is going to pay the cost for the registration. Who does that? The registration, do we do that? Or does the owner do that?
Through your worship, we would do that to ensure that it occurs.
Okay, so then we have a documents. Okay, very good. Councillor Fleet and then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Andrew. Will there be any parking issues there? I noticed there's a no parking sign right at that spot where that ramp wants to go. Is there an issue with cars pulling up there, pick off or drop off or pick up? I just wonder if there'd be any type of parking issue with that ramp.
Through your worship, as part of the original building permit for that property, based on the size and the amount of children that are there, they require five spaces on that property, which they technically have on their drive-through portion that goes around the property. They haven't been utilizing that portion of the property for drop-offs and pickups. We have spoken to them about that, about using it. Most of the time, people park on the north side of 9th Street, get their kids in and out there. But I actually believe that those no parking signs have been on that south side of the road far before that was even a daycare. So we have heard the complaint a little bit. Bylaw has enforced it a few times. But yeah, the intent is that there is no parking on that side of the road.
That's a concern for me, just with winter parking and snow removal. We've had some issues around there with snow, so I'd like to see that addressed. So thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just, I realize you checked with Public Works, but did we check with other utilities, energy and communications systems that may be buried in that area? Would they still be accessible for any maintenance work that needs to be done?
Through your worship, no, I haven't spoken with the gas company or anybody, to that regard. They will have obviously get their locates done to do the work. And if any type of service requires access to there, as stated in the encroachment agreement, that's, the responsibility of the owner to, potentially replace that ramp or stair, if it were required to be removed for any service. Hence why we try to keep people off the road allowance.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Andrew, can you tell me how far from the actual sidewalk the beginning of the ramp will be?
Through your worship, I want to say about a foot, I believe.
So are they planning to put a railing on this ramp? I'm just thinking, because I do walk on that street a fair bit, like if anybody, is somebody gonna like run down the lawn and trip over their ramp, or how's it gonna work?
Through your worship, the ramp will run parallel with the asphalt. So when you exit that door, it's essentially just a landing, and then you would turn to your left and it would go down. Yes, there would be a railing on the outside portion of the ramp. And yes, essentially it work its way down to grade there.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any questions online. And none in the chambers, so I will call the question. All in favor of report PB 2723? That is carried. Thank you. Item 10.3 is report HR 0423. The subject is the Joint Health and Safety Committee Terms of Reference Update. It's from Melissa Hilgendorf, our HR Manager, Human Resources. And I need a mover and seconder, Councillor Sackle, and can I take Councillor Hawking? Okay. Melissa? Oh. Melissa said she can't unmute.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you. So scrolling here. So thanks for having me this evening. I'm here just to present an update to our Joint Health and Safety Committee Terms of Reference document, which governs the committee's formation, the function, and how it administers processes. And it does require regular review to ensure that it remains current. So at the committee's quarterly meeting on September 28th, they reviewed the document and put forth some minor updates for council's consideration, as noted via strike through and red text within the document attached in your council package. So the updates do include the adoption of gender neutral terminology, amending the title of CAO/clerk to just read CAO, permitting virtual meetings, and moving to a full review of the terms of reference every 4 years as opposed to annually. And this aligns with the same schedule that our other health and safety governing policies and procedures are on. I do also want to note that although not shown in your package this evening, within Appendix D on page 43 of the council agenda package, it's the annual checklist of our annual evaluation for the committee. Items number 11, 12, 13, and 17 will be further updated to use the terminology of committee members. Right now, it does refer to people or sometimes just members, so we will update that so it's consistent. There are no financial implications associated with this report. It does support strategic direction number 5, open and responsible government. And the recommendation is that report HR 04-23 Joint Health and Safety Committee Terms of Reference Update be received, and that council approve the recommended updates to the Joint Health and Safety Committee Terms of Reference as detailed within report HR 04-23. I'm happy to receive any questions.
Thanks, Melissa. I have a question. It states that the terms of reference shall be reviewed at least every 4 years. So does that mean it's coming to this council every 4 years, but you're updating it continually? Or are we going to see it as you update it?
So the committee does have a schedule where different documents come up for review on a regular basis. And so at each meeting, we review what is coming up on that schedule. So this document would be included in there, formally reviewed and updated through the committee meeting every 4 years and then brought to council. But there could be opportunity in between or a reason that comes up where the committee may review it more often. And in that case, it would come back to council at that time.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Melissa? And none online either. So thanks, Melissa. So all in favor of HR 0423. That is carried. Item 10.4 is report ED 0823. The subject is the Community Improvement Program, otherwise known as CIP. It's an update and direction input is required. It's from April Marshall, our Economic Development Manager, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the table. Councillor Sacco and Councillor Hawking. April?
Thank you, Your Worship. Bringing this report to council today, just to provide a little bit of background, if you all recall, the CIP or Community Improvement Program, we broadened. Okay, so we started off with the facade incentive program in the downtown for several years, but the CIP opened it up several incentives through prioritizing the type of development that we would like to encourage in the town of Hanover, and it opened it up to our whole town within any business or commercial property within the borders within the town. So essentially, we're speaking now from 2022 when the CIP plan was adopted, and it is to be a 10-year plan. That is how it has been formed. So in 2021 and 2022, we've had consistent uptake and response to this program. So we provided some details here about the impacts that the CIP has had since its adoption in 2020. So you can see that we supported several facade incentive programs or facade incentive improvements. It's been responsible for starting new businesses, new rental units, and improving properties and landscaping. So I won't go through that in too much detail, but essentially through those past 2 years, we've had a $40,000 budget. $20,000 was contributed through our operations budget or tax base, and $20,000 was contributed through the County of Grey. I'll talk more about that in financial implications. This is a very layered report, so please forgive me if I'm bouncing around a little bit. So essentially what we're looking at in 2023 is that we've had an overwhelming response this year, actually, for the CIP. And we're in a position right now that we have approved grants meeting our budget. And we have some other projects in the queue that are kind of waiting to see if we're able to support them or not. So through the discussion of this paper, you will see where we are sitting. And I tried to lay it out as per property and then the types of grants that are being utilized. So they vary. It's from facades, property landscape, there's planning and building grant fees, there's vacant building conversions, and some secondary suite development. I also tried to highlight through this the impact that this is having to our downtown. I've color coded the downtown properties, so you can see that there is a significant impact to those improvements in the downtown. The DIA offers a 10% top-up incentive to the overall project cost up to a maximum of $2,000 per property. And that is only applicable to facade, building and signage, and accessibility improvement work. So those are the only 2 grant streams that they provide that top-up incentive to. 2 projects have been completed to date. And why I bring that up is another consideration for us, and we've talked about that this evening as well, is the contractors, the limited availability of contractors often delays this work. So we've seen that in the past where we'll approve a project in 1 year, but it typically might not be done to the following year. So we've had to kind of manage the funds that way and distribute them accordingly. As noted, 2 of the noted properties, they have additional applications that they have submitted to us and are pending. And 2 of the noted properties are carryover projects from the previous year, as I just mentioned. So essentially, some other considerations for us to consider or to discuss this evening is the tax increment equivalent grant is not part of this report. That is treated outside of these funding streams of the CIP. It's a totally separate agreement that we bring to council for your approval. So that is not a consideration of this report. The amount reflected is the maximum amount of grants that would be granted. So if a project comes in at a lower cost, the grant is recalculated and would be a less amount as well. So we're monitoring what the actual funds are spent. The grant cannot go over what was approved, but it can be lessened. We have been leaving all the grant streams open. So we have not narrowed it down and only opened up certain grant streams per year or certain areas. We've left it very open to see what kind of response that we get. So that's why you can see the variation in what the grant streams are. There's also considerations as far as, and I'm just bringing up these considerations for our discussion point. So when I go through the financial implications, I'll talk about the situation we're in this year and how what we recommend to be able to help facilitate or support those applications, but also looking for some direction for the 2024 budget so that I can get a better idea of what council's wants are so that we can consider those as we're developing our plan moving forward. So again, we're leaving all the grant streams open. The maximum dollar amount can be applied to the amount of money granted to individual property owners or individual projects. I just bring that up because I've seen that in other municipalities. As I said, these are open right now. So what we're taking is the plan as it's written, and that's what we're granting. So there are maximums laid out in this plan. And there's certain percentages that they can apply for and be granted that. But I've also seen in other municipalities that they also put a cap on the amount of money that can be granted so that so you can potentially support more projects up to a certain amount versus maybe one project getting the max amount of what they've applied for. Downtown revitalization and increasing housing supply have been identified through the town of Hanover and the economic development strategic plans as leading priorities. We would like to encourage the DIA and Chamber of Commerce to consider partnering with us in the future. And I've been asked, I would like to be a delegation at upcoming meetings so I can better explain this program and address any questions because, this program is in line with their mandates and spurring development and business activity in our town. So I think it would be very fitting for us to explore what those partnership opportunities could look like, especially as we get into the financial implications. The Economic Tourism and Cultural Development Committee supported a motion at their September 20th meeting that they would like us to approach the DIA and ask them to consider financially contributing more on top of the top-up incentive. And then also should that request maybe not be granted, that I bring this to council for further consideration. So that is where we are tonight. And as I alluded to before, as far as Grey County goes, they are very supportive of this program. We have worked with them very closely to develop the menu of incentives and create the plan. And they continue to work with us on tax increment equivalent grants and DC charges and things of that nature to help support development in the town and all their member municipalities. As mentioned, we have these applications that are to date. We have 2 pending. Essentially where we're sitting right now is our budget this year is $50,000 because we had 20,000 contributed from Grey County. We had 20,000 from our own operations or tax base. And then we had a 10,000 carryover from the previous projects that were not completed in 2022. So right now we're sitting at approved applications at $49,889.35. $37,626.85 of this is being applied to downtown projects. So I think that's really important to keep in mind. Pending applications to date represent an additional $9,282.45 in grants. So we do have $28,000 remaining in our CIP investing in Hanover reserves. So essentially, before I officially read the recommendations, the recommendation is that we continue to approve these applications, utilizing the reserve funds if needed. But I would just say if needed, because as we've seen in the past, some projects can be delayed or projects can come in at lower than what they were 100% like what they were granted. So knowing that we have those reserve funds, we would like to be able to support all the applications we're receiving, but then keeping in mind our overall budget so that we don't go over that. So that's just part of my role, and I work with Chris and just ensuring that we're staying in line with all of that stuff. And then again, just going back to the considerations, just wanted to get some initial feedback from council today. If there's anything that jumps out to you that you would like to see implemented in the future, because with Grey County, they had designated $20,000 over a 5-year period contributing to this program. That is coming to an end in 2023. So in 2024, we're not going to see that $20,000 contribution coming from Grey County, and Hanover will have to look at how we finance the CIP moving forward. They will still participate again through the tax increment equivalent grant on a case-by-case basis and potentially development charges as well. So again, just going back, other considerations, I just want to know from council, or we'd like to hear from you, if you feel like we should be prioritizing, like we've all gone through the strategic planning process. We know that downtown and housing are high on our priority list. So like, do we want that reflected in our CIP grant streams so that we're very specific and intentional next year as far as saying these grant streams are open? Is there certain properties that we just want to see a max put on, or are we good with meeting the requirements of the plan? Those are the type of things that I would like to get some feedback on from you this evening. So the recommendations are that report ED 0823 Community Improvement Program CIP update and direction input be received. The council approve the recommendations to continue to approve the 2023 eligible applications as detailed in report ED 0823, and that council provide input for program direction as outlined in the discussion section of report ED 0823. So I would be happy to answer any questions or take your feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, April. Okay, questions, comments? Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sackle.
Thank you, Your Worship. April, I'm wondering if you can tell me how long the County of Grey has been contributing to this program for my first question.
So they have been contributing since 2019. So this is the 5th and final year. So it was $120,000 over 5 years.
Okay. And my other question is there a cap on the amount of grants that we approve to one owner of several properties?
Yes, at this point, there is not. And that's what I would like feedback on. Yes.
Okay. because we do have a number of people in the community that have several properties, and it's great that they, take advantage of the situation and do that. But I'm just wondering if maybe that's something we should consider so that perhaps the two that are not being able to be completed could have maybe moved up the chain there somewhere.
So the two applications are for existing properties that have applied. They're in addition to existing ones that are there. And I hear what you're saying. I guess my response at this point is, I think we're trying to encourage this development, no matter who owns the properties per se. But at the same time, we have to look at it per property. We have to look at it per property owner. And so it can get a little confusing, right? Because they can have several assets within a company, right? Or we could have a business that is aware of this program and does continually use it. And we don't necessarily want to discourage that because they are investing in their property. But we also, you're right, like we can consider setting limitations so that we do ensure that we have enough for everybody, or not everybody, but we can have a broad, we can broadly approve applications instead of maybe just being focused on certain properties. I bring that up just because as we move forward and a limited budget, that is something we should heavily consider.
Great. And that is something that I think we should consider so that it's an even playing field for all of the commercial properties in town.
Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, April, for your report. Yes, it's very sad that Grey County is not able to contribute anymore. It would be wonderful if they did. I appreciate the fact that you're going to be asking the DIA for some help, but I know when the more I learn about DIA, it's restricted to a certain geographical region. And will you be restrained by that, or will they open that up? I'm not sure.
Thank you, Councillor Sacco. I guess I should clarify, the DIA would be downtown specific. Hence why we're highlighting what the impact on downtown properties is, just so that they are aware that this program is working in revitalizing the downtown. So for them to be able to contribute, I think is fitting, but while respecting their mandate and their geography.
Okay, that makes good sense. Thank you. And I like the idea of putting a cap on. I think we want to involve as many as we can, so I would support that idea.
Online, Councillor Cable or Councillor Hawking, any comments or questions? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess as far as prioritizing intakes or funding streams, April, I quite like it how it is right now. I'm thinking that if, an owner was redeveloping their property, they probably would want to take advantage of as many streams at one time as possible, as opposed to 1 year working on facade. Then the next year we open up landscaping, then they have to go and work on landscaping. Like, I think it makes sense that if they're going to, work on revitalizing their property, that they have access to as many of the streams as possible at one time. I wonder, as far as setting a maximum grant allocation, I think it's tricky because we have businesses of different sizes. And so if we were to set a maximum grant allocation amount for one business, I just would hate to see that limit what they were thinking of doing as far as their improvement is concerned.
Thank you. Councillor Hawking, did you have a comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks for your report, April. So as I see it, we have $28,000 in a reserve, which we could use this year to finish those two projects that you talked about that have received no allocation. Is that correct?
Through Your Worship, Yeah, it wouldn't take all of the reserves, but what I'm suggesting is that we utilize those reserves if we need them. So at the end of this year, we balance out what projects are complete, what the final grant amount was, and then should we need to look to those reserves to help offset that, then yes, that we would do that.
Okay, my second question is, based on 2023, you had $50,000. Seeing that Grey County no longer supports this initiative financially, we are left then with the only money would be $20,000 if we matched last year's budget from the town of Hanover. Is that correct?
Your worship, yes, that's correct. That is what I'm seeking direction on as well this evening. Like, do we want to see that budget amount stay? Should I be working within that budget to increase it? It's going to potentially affect other things. Yeah, that is what we're looking for input on.
And my third question to you is, you have a motion from your Economic Development Committee that you make a presentation to the DIA and to the Chamber. Do you think we could get into a partnership where we all contribute $20,000 each?
I don't want to put a figure to it, Councillor Hawking, but the idea being that I have sent this information to the DIA for their discussion. I believe they discussed it at their previous meeting. I don't have confirmation on what that direction is. But yes, I do see it as I would like to be a delegation and come to those committees, because I want the committees to understand what this program is and the effects that it can have on our community in revitalizing our community. So I don't know if that's completely understood at this point, but just looking for that opportunity to bring it forward with the Economic, Tourism and Cultural Development Advisory Committee's support and direction.
Okay, then my fourth question would be, before we commit to a direction on a budget next year, do you think it might be wise to sort of analyze the input that you receive from the DIA and the Chamber and their willingness to co-partner with us in this project? Or do you think that we should, are you looking for us as a council to give you a number tonight?
Your worship, I'm not asking you for a number. I think I'm just looking to get some feedback on where we sit as far as the support of this program. So I have asked through the secretary, I have asked to be a delegation at the DIA at their upcoming meeting. I have not approached the Chamber yet. I wanted to have that conversation with the DIA first, because I think it is most applicable to them. Yeah, I guess I'm looking to get a sense from council as we have competing priorities, and I know we have a big strategic plan moving forward. Just looking for that feedback as far as like we should be looking to see if we can increase funds or maintain that 40,000, or no, we're happy with our existing contribution. Just looking for those type of feedback that I could bring forward with the budget discussions. No decisions need to be made this evening.
Okay, thank you, April.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Dickert and then Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, April. Just to better understand it, the streams that you approve, if the stream was the same for 2 years, could the same building apply for it 2 years in a row?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Dickert, they can apply for 2 years in a row. That's essentially what I'm trying to present this evening, is that it's open right now. They can apply for multiple grant streams. I think what we're seeing in the downtown this year, if I could elaborate, is that the building owner is applying and doing, like, say some facade work, and then we have the business that's coming into the building, then is applying for for conversion grants for the inside, right? So that's why we're seeing this these properties applying for multiple streams or applying for bigger grants. The only condition right now on our CIP is that the tax increment grant stands alone and it cannot be combined with any other grants. But as far as the ones that are detailed in this report, they can be combined. Mhm.
And my second question is, the county has been generous and given us this $20,000 for 5 years. Have we made a request that they extend this program? Has there been any communication with economic development there to see if they would continue this?
Yes, through your worship, and perhaps either of you might want to speak to it more. It's my understanding that this has been brought to county council and that the decision has been made that they will continue to support through the tax increment grant and other ways, but not that direct $20,000 financial contribution a year.
It's been referenced a couple of times that that program is coming to an end. The actual vote, I'm not sure about that, but it has been referenced that it is coming to an end.
But would we, as a member of that county, be able to at least send a letter saying how important it is to us and that it may be worth supporting?
Sure. Yes, we can do that.
If I could, your worship, I know that we had meetings with the staff there in advance about the program and how we've utilized it and our recommendations for the future. And that was brought forward at that time for consideration to be included in the report.
So would every municipality in Gray be using this?
So I think that's the viewpoint that the Gray County needs to take, because some municipalities are more advanced in where they are with the CIP, where others maybe haven't even started or are just getting started right now. So part of that report to the county, as I understand it, or to county council, as I understand it, is that so we were allowed to put the money into reserves on an annual basis and then use as needed. So some municipalities haven't spent anything and it's in their reserves. So the county is allowing them to keep that money in the reserves and have the next few years to actually distribute it. But as far as the actual annual contribution, they have, as the direction I have heard is that they are stopping that.
We can always send a letter. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, your worship. April, the DIA area, if you want to call it, runs from, say, Norm's Restaurant to Queens Bush, correct? So the 10% top incentive only goes to that area, nowhere else, just DIA area.
Yes, that's correct. It is only for facade, signage, grant improvements, and accessibility improvements within the designated DIA area.
As a council rep on the DIA, I know our last meeting, I think we meet again this Thursday. I think they're going to revisit the amount of money in their 2024 budget. So I'm sure you'll be brought up to what's happening there, but that's what I understand. They're going to revisit this in their 2024 budget. So hopefully when you attend a meeting that we can go forward with that. So thank you.
Thank you for relaying that. I appreciate that.
Councillor Cable, my apologies. There we go. He's working on it.
Sorry, we're not able to. I think the deputy mayor took the words out of my mouth. I think I was wondering if we would be able to send a letter to Gray County advocating for the continuation of this program. So I appreciate that can be done.
Okay. I don't see any other hands raised. So the request is to put it in. The request is the use of reserves to continue the program, and then the input. Do you need more input yet, April?
I think this is a good start and we can continue the discussion when the recommendation comes via the budget.
There are other ways that maybe you can only apply every other year, could be every 3 years, but it depends on what is happening. It's a tricky situation to say you can only do one thing and then that, you know, the facade can't be half done, right? So, but I do see somewhere where you're going to have to, if we don't have funding from other sources, we are going to have to put a limit on it. So, all right, so I'm going to call the question, all in favor of report ED 0823. That is carried. Okay, so we'll go through the committee minutes, or do you want a 5-minute break?
Yes.
So we're going to take let's come back at 6 o'clock. We'll take a short recess. Okay, we are back and we'll continue on with the agenda. Item 11 is Committee of Council minutes. We have 5 sets of minutes along with the subcommittee minutes. And I need a mover and seconder to put those on the floor before they are highlighted. So we'll take Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sackle. So the first one, 11.1, is the Age Friendly Advisory Committee minutes. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Age Friendly met Monday, September 18th. I'll just go over some of the highlights. Age Friendly Business Resource Guide, meeting with the City of Ottawa and Town of Wasaga Beach. Brandon Dobson provided an update to the committee members on his meetings with City of Ottawa and Town of Wasaga Beach. E-learning developer format will be partnering with FAST out of Toronto to develop our e-learning modules. The e-learning will be a video format and will be about 40 minutes long, broken up into modules. A grant update, Hanover has accepted the Seniors Communities Grant, which will be used for e-learning and marketing purposes. Next step, we'll be working on e-learning video and speaking to different events, meetings, and about the resource guide. This is a guide that will be used by residents and by businesses, mostly businesses, and hopefully it will be on the Town of Hanover's websites.
Thank you. And of course, council, any comments or questions, just let me know. Item 11.2 is Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee minutes. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Parks, Recreation and Culture met Wednesday, September the 27th. And some of the highlights from that are that the rates and fees, we reviewed those and we've provided an updated list of 2024 rates and fees. The Own Sound Attack game was held at the P&H Center on Wednesday, September 20th to a sold out crowd. So that was excellent. As far as the Home and Garden Show, being promoted for May 4th and 5th, but with a rain date of May 25th and 26th, if the Barons continue to be successful in the playoffs. The East End Trail update, environmental impact studies been received, and recommending geotechnical as a next step to determine the final design. The contract for the Robert Steers / Legion Park. The contract for services has been completed. The equipment's been ordered. So once it's in, that will be finalized as well. The Trail Bridge update, still procuring materials, and the contractors in communication with Saugeen Valley Conservation. So upon finalizing that, council and the community update will be shared. And as you maybe noticed, the flower boxes and hanging baskets are coming down now. The last Eat Well Market at Heritage Square was on October the 7th. And summer camp statistics, the number of kids this year were up considerably from 2022. And the staff's been working very hard for the public skate sponsorships. So 57 out of 68 public skates have been sponsored. So that's excellent. And the arena advertising around the boards, 23 of the 26th of those have been filled as well. So they're working very hard to get those things filled up. Thank you.
Very good. Lots of information. Item 11.2.1. This is the Splash Pad Development Ad Hoc Committee minutes, and there's 2 sets of minutes. Councillor Hawking, did you want to highlight those minutes?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. On the meeting on September the 6th, we had a resignation from Lee Cardwell. Unfortunately, she has decided to resign from the Splash Pad Committee, and Lee was instrumental along with Marion to sort of get the ball rolling on the splash pad. So we do thank her for her contribution to date. The Hanover Splash Pad staff and council documents were shared with the committee members for review. We reviewed the site review with the Hanover Park in mind. And then we did a tour, and I think I've mentioned this before to you. This was a very, very productive venture. We sort of got in one car and drove around to several different splash pads in the area, which proved to be very instrumental in our discussions. And if I could move on to the second one, I just have to do a little techie thing here. Thank you for your patience. On September the 21st, we started looking at our campaign materials. And I think Laura presented some of those ideas at our last council meeting. We're working on marketing material and dealing with the website. I have to reiterate that these are very productive meetings that happen the first Wednesday of every month. And we are working sort of behind the scenes to get, if I could use the word, get our act together and have sort of our fundraising plan in unison with all committee members. We're identifying individuals right now. And we look forward to getting out in the community and then in the immediate future. So thanks again, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. No questions at this time.
Thank you.
Next is 11.2.3. This is the Disc Golf Course Development Ad Hoc Committee Minutes. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. The Disc Golf Ad Hoc Committee met on August the 22nd. They had a debrief on the grand opening, which was a great success, and there was a really good turnout for that event. And the main item that the committee is still looking at is alternate tee locations. So looking at the potential of adding some shorter tees, similar to a golf course where you would have those, the ability to tee off from 2 different locations. And so that's being considered, and hopefully will be brought forward in the future as funding allows. Other than that, the disc golf baskets will be removed for the winter, and so that will be happening shortly, and so they will return in the spring.
Thank you. Item 11.3 is the Joint Health and Safety Committee minutes from September 28th. Melissa, you'll highlight those.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So yes, the committee met on September 28th. It was rescheduled from September 7th. The minutes of the previous meeting, as well as departmental health and safety minutes, were approved. The committee reviewed workplace inspection schedules and selected a department for the quarterly health and safety shout out in our Staff Connections newsletter. During a review of incident reports, the committee noted a continued instance of staff interacting with kind of hostile or harassing patrons. And for the sake of consistency, it was decided that those instances will be reported on a public incident report form as opposed to an employee incident report form. However, it would still be forwarded and copied to the Health and Safety Committee for oversight. An update on health and safety training occurred, with November being a very busy month. There are 3 first aid sessions running. Some of those are multiple days in length, as well as 3 sessions of de-escalation training. Under new business, the committee agreed to develop a workplace respect poster that can be placed in the public areas of our facilities, discuss potential legislative changes coming related to air quality and heat stress. And they began planning for 2024. Further progress was made on the development of our emergency procedures, and minor updates were proposed to the Health and Safety Committee terms of reference that Council saw earlier this evening. We reviewed the status of our 2023 goals and objectives, and the meeting adjourned after approximately 2 hours.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Melissa? Counselor Hudson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Melissa, in the incident reports, number 7.12, you've listed here that you've noted a continued increase in instances of aggressive, violent, harassing patrons. Is there a consistency of anywhere in particular this is happening, or is it across the board?
Through you, Your Worship, at this point, it is across the board happening in multiple departments. So we're hoping to support those efforts through our de-escalation training, as well as the posters for respectful workplaces in our public areas.
Thank you. It's too bad this is happening, but hopefully the de-escalation courses that you're offering will be very helpful for this.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. Item 11.4 is the Planning Advisory Committee minutes. Counselor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Plan Advisory met October 10th. I'll just go over some of the highlights. Official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. Dana Kiefer, planner for Coldbite Engineer, presented a comprehensive overview of proposal official plan OP6 and zoning bylaw amendment Z 4-23, which aims to enable the establishment of a financial institution, Bank Montreal. Dana clarified that BMO has not indicated they are leaving downtown and in seeking relocation to another site. Correspondence, Grey County takes action to increase housing supply, dated August 11, 2023. Andrew Wilkins, Secretary Treasurer, provided insight into Grey County's strategic and enhancing housing supply and addressing affordability challenges. New business, committee members received an update regarding the progress of construction at 223 10th Street, where construction is in full swing. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Item 11.5 is the start of the Economic Tourism Culture Development Advisory Committee minutes along with the subcommittees. So Councillor Sackle, you can just continue
through
through.
them. I will. Thank you, Your Worship. I'll begin with the September 20th minutes. With regards to strategic planning, the committee will utilize both the Economic Development Strategic Plan and the Town of Hanover Corporate Strategic Plan to form its updated plan. And they will also consider the 2000 BR&E and Welcoming Communities Assessment Report. We heard from April Marshall tonight about the Community Improvement Program and how successful it's been. With regards to Saugeen Connects, WowZA is organizing its next season of events. Show Me the Money takes place in the town of Minto on October the 25th, and Women Who Rock will take place on November 20th. It will feature an evening of entertainment at Back Porch Events Just Heart Tribute Concert, so that should be fun. The Saugeen Student Startup Program supported 58 businesses operated by local area youth, so that was a good detail. The DIA Christmas Market will include an indoor element at St. Matthew's on the same day as the Christmas parade this year. There's some discussion of hosting a lighting of the square on the Friday night before. Jen Olivero announced at our meeting that she has been elected as the first female president of the Ontario Guild of Town Criers. And this is after a successful championship held here in the summer in Hanover. So congratulations, Jen Olivero. I'll move on to Hanover Heritage Subcommittee minutes. First of all, the June 15th ones. Mighton Funeral Home have scanned historical photos of Hanover, which will be hung in the funeral home as decor. Secondly, Adam Olivero from Whiteman made a delegation regarding how best to preserve interviews based on the latest technology. There are 43 resident interviews as well as moments in time interviews to be preserved. Then the August 17th Heritage Subcommittee minutes. Based on the June delegation, the committee decided to use DVD and CD digital data storage. Fireproof boxes will be purchased to protect these interviews. There is also an interview with Ed Pepler scheduled for a digital recording. And you may have seen the pop-up museum at the Heritage Committee took care of with the Nectal furniture donation. It was set up in the community hall for Culture Days, and it was a real beauty, that's for sure. I'd like to move on now to the Cultural Roundtable Subcommittee minutes of June the 7th. There was a ribbon cutting ceremony for all the enhancements that were made to Heritage Square this year on June the 11th. Upgrades included the amphitheater cover, the holiday light display, and the pride benches. Culture Days began September 23rd with the community players setting up a prop creation station. That's all the stuff they make that goes on the stage. And a scene display while the Saugeen artists had artistic work set up. And as well, the Grey Bird Singers had a booth there. Want to remind everybody that the Hanover Public Library sale is happening October 19th, 20th, and 21st at the Raceway location. I'd like to move now to the September 6th subcommittee minutes for Cultural Roundtable. I had the pleasure of attending the Minto, Wellington North, and the Hanover Cultural Roundtable meeting on September 6th. It was an opportunity to hear what other cultural roundtables are doing in their communities. And each town's economic development manager shared their town's history, their past projects, and their future plans. Are there any questions for any of that?
Thank you, Councillor Sacco.
Thank you.
That's very good. All right, so that was the last set of minutes for that motion. It's been moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Sacco, and the motion is to receive the information and approve the recommendations contained in those minutes. All in favor? That is carried. Item 12 is our bylaws, and I will ask the clerk for the intent of the bylaws, but I'll take a mover and seconder first. We have 4 bylaws. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Fleet. And I'll ask the clerk for the intent.
Bylaw 3280-23 is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the September 18th, 2023 regular council meeting. Bylaw 3281-23 is a bylaw to adopt amendment number 6 to the Town of Hanover official plan. Bylaw 3282-23 is a bylaw to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw of the Town of Hanover. And bylaw 3283-23 is a bylaw to allow an encroachment of 0.4 meters at 369 9th Street onto town-owned land.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Dickert, seconded by Councillor Fleet, that bylaw numbers 3280-23 through to 3283-23 be introduced and that they be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. Are there any further questions or comments with regards to those bylaws? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Item 13, correspondence requiring action. We do not have any. Item 14 is reports and correspondence for information. The first one, item 14.1, this is on page 97 of our package, is report PW 19-23. It is the wastewater treatment plant operations report from July 1st to September 30th. And it's from Mr. Cooper, our Director of Public Works. Ron?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, this is a wastewater treatment plant operations report, July 1st to September 30th. I actually have Ted Knapp, our chief operator, on the line, and he can kind of take you through the highlights of this one. He's detailed a number of activities that have occurred during that period, and just in our report, we've tried to summarize them for council of any of the significant activities that have happened during that period of time. But I will turn this over to Ted if he can get connected to take you through the report.
Welcome, Ted.
Hello. So yeah, this is the wastewater treatment plant operations report from July 1st, September 30th. So some highlights, some major activities. We had a couple of technicians out to resolve some issues with their flare stack, and it is working a lot better now. We pumped down and cleaned and serviced final clarifier number 3. We hauled some sludge or biosolids from the sewage plant to a farm out in Elmwood on August 1st and 2nd. We hauled about 1,500 cubes. And then just routine maintenance to facility pumps and analyzers have been going on throughout those 3 months. Also just we did have some issues with some turkey feathers from Exceldor coming into the plant. But we sent them an email and they responded and they looked into it, and it's kind of an ongoing thing. It happens maybe once or twice a month, but they're quick to respond and quick to look after that. I'd be happy to take any questions if there is any.
Thanks, Ted. Are there any questions? Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, I just have to know more about the turkey feather thing, Ted, because I don't know what happens there.
So basically what happens is we have a trash removal system at the sewage plant. When they wash turkey feathers, or I'm not sure how exactly they get into the sewer, but maybe equipment breaks down or something to that sort. It goes into the sewer and then they get removed at the sewage plant. And we have a bin that all the trash gets collected in before it goes into the plant. And then once in a while, our bin gets overflowing with turkey feathers or other turkey parts. But they do quickly look after it. It usually only happens maybe once or twice a month.
Thanks, Ted.
So Ted, I do want to say it's very helpful. When we had those tours of both plants, water and wastewater, just visualizing what we saw on the tours and then reading your report is very helpful. So again, thank you for those tours. I don't see any other questions, so we'll move on to 14.2, which is PW 20-23, and this is the water treatment plant operations report. Ron, I'll just turn it over to Ted.
That's the case in this instance as well. Thank you.
Okay, Ted, it's all yours.
Yeah, okay. This is the water treatment plant operations report from July 1st to September 30th. Some highlights or major activities during this period include, so we had some system faults and as well as well 2 faults. The well 2 faults were causing some issues to get like some air into the raw water line. It was an electrical issue. A contactor was slowly going. And then finally it fully went and we were able to find where this contactor was and the specific part that needed to be replaced. After that, we were able to bleed off the air and get the well and the UV system working a lot better. We obviously are testing generators and calibrating and cleaning analyzers on a monthly basis, and water main flushing and hydrant maintenance was completed from July 31st to August 28th. I would be happy to take any questions if there is any.
Okay, thanks, Ted. Are there any questions or comments for water treatment update? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thanks, Ted. Item 14.3 is report PB 28-23. This is the municipal law enforcement quarterly report from July to September of this year. It's from Ken Campbell, our municipal law enforcement officer. Ken?
There we go. Thank you, Your Worship. So for our third quarter, we're up. Thank you, Your Worship. So we're up a little bit. In the third quarter, we completed some downtown parking enforcement. And as a result of a complaint, we had a vehicle towed off the roadway there. So that's some of the highlights for parking. Clean yards, we were down a little bit, which is always good to see. Typically this time of year, we see an increase of the clean yards complaints. Zoning was 8, highlighting and animal control 14. Noise was 3 as a result of barking dogs, and there was also some construction noise complaints in there as well. 1 in signs and fences. 3 for property standards, 0 mobile canteen, parks 4. Open air burning, it was good to see low numbers there too. And other inquiries were 54 for this quarter. So the recommendation is that report PB-28-23 Municipal Law Enforcement Quarterly Report, July to September 2023, be received for information. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Ken. I see one question. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ken, for the report. Just from my understanding, what's the difference between clean yards and property standards? And the second question is, are the 220, what's the difference between 222 numbers? Are they property standards? And the second question is, are the 220, what's the difference between 2 numbers? Are they property standards? And the
So Ken, I don't know if you heard that. We're having some technical difficulties. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of background interference here. So I got the first part of your question before it started bouncing back to me. So the difference between clean yards and property standards is that property standards primarily deals with building and structural issues. So if it's something in relation to plumbing, for example, that would fall under property standards. Clean yards, when we rewrote the bylaw, we separated all the stuff like garbage, long grass, those types of things. We separated that out of property standards just because of the timelines were so long to get those things completed. We wanted to make it a more expedient to get those matters dealt with. So that's the difference between the two.
Okay, thank you for that, Ken. My second question was, are the numbers under the 2022 column, is that for the entire year or for the 3 quarters only, just when we're comparing them?
So that's the total cumulative for 2022 for all of each one of those categories in there.
Any other comments or questions for Ken? I don't see any. Thanks, Ken.
Thank
All
you.
right, item 14.4 is report DCS 15-23. The subject is the quarterly financial statement for July to September of this year, and it's from Chris Walker, our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer. Chris?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a quarterly report that's brought to council on a regular basis as the information becomes available. Attached was the balance sheet as well to give you a snapshot. And we've also given you a copy of all the accounts payable listings from July to September. And you'll notice in the current operations, the balance shows really nice that we have over 2.9 million, but keep in mind that if you look at the balance sheet, over 3.6 million of that hasn't been collected yet. And that would be the taxes that get billed in August. So the whole year is in there in our income statement, but it hasn't actually been paid. That's why it's sitting on the balance sheet as a receivable versus cash in the bank. And then as part of that, we also have a lot of that money that has to be given to the county and school board of 1.35 million. So, and there's also 561,000 of that amount that is actually attributed to user fees for water and sewer. So they're not taxes. So it does look great there, but keep in mind, there's a lot of things that come off of that because everything has been billed to date on tax wise. And then the last thing I've provided to you is the Town of Hanover taxes receivable graph as of September 30th. Always looks good that we've overpaid because there are a lot of taxpayers that pay their August and November all at once. And so by the end of September, they've already prepaid. So it looks great until it actually comes due. And then that's when you'll see the leftovers outstanding. So you watch in the end of November and December, that's when you'll see the higher amount near the end of the year that's outstanding. So unless you have any specific questions on anything on the details, I'm available for comments.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions for Chris? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Chris. Just under line 002, it says grants receivable. Last year we had 566,000. This year we have 0. Is that a timing thing? And the other question I had was on the water and sewer penalties. We're at 118,000 this year compared to 57,000 last year. Is that a trend we're concerned about, or is that again a timing thing?
It's a timing thing because the amount for December 31st, 2022 is for the full year, whereas the amount that you're seeing right now is the year to date. So at the end of 2022, we had a lot of grants receivable outstanding. Most of that was the SMART money that was waiting for the government to provide that information to us. So we don't usually get that money till about February, March. So right now we don't have any grants receivable. That will go up by the end of December 31st. We'll have all these grants that'll still be outstanding that we need to have. But what you're comparing there is the full year for 2022 versus what we currently have right now. Yeah, that seems really high. I'll have to go back and see why we have that so high, that people are missing paying their water bills pretty quickly, because that's really gone up a lot.
Okay. If you want to send an email out and share that with us, or next meeting, whatever. All right, moving on. Item 14.5 is report CL 0823.
Your Worship.
Sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
Just wondering, Chris, is it possible to have perhaps in like the end of like quarter, maybe quarter 2, 3, like a forecast for the end of the year, like whether we're forecasting to be, you know, in a surplus situation or in a deficit at year end? Is it possible to include that? Like, I would imagine that we're probably tracking whether we're on target or not.
We usually provide that in our semi-annual one, which would have gone out to you back in August for our 6-month, January to June 30th. That's when we usually provide that. But that's something that council wishes us to do. It's just a lot more work to do the individual for each department. Or you're just asking for a quick where we are, not the detailed that we've done in the 6
I would think in this report, perhaps it could be more of a quick one, right? Or if we know that there's certain projects that have gone, you know, far over budget, that we would be kind of anticipating that that might be an issue, or if we know that, you know, a particular grant that we thought was going to come in wasn't going to come in. Just maybe it doesn't have to be super detailed, but just kind of at this point in October where we think we'll end the year.
We can definitely do whatever council wishes, for sure. If that's something you'd like, I can add that to my list.
Sure, go ahead. We'll take a look at it and see when would that come, Chris?
Well, would normally come on this report. I would have to have something added there. I can bring another one back next council meeting if that's what you wish, where we're at.
I'm thinking personally, I would be fine if we waited until the same report for next year.
Same report next year, or quarterly reports, put it that way. Okay, we'll move on. Item 14.5 is CL 0823. It is the 2024 Council and Committee of the Whole meeting schedule, and it's from our clerk, Vicki McDonald. Vicki?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an information report to provide council with the 2024 Council and Committee of the Whole meeting dates. It also outlines our budget meeting dates and planning sessions and other important events such as the AMO OGRA conferences. The schedule will be posted on the town's website for the public's information. And as well, additional special meetings may be called in accordance with our procedure bylaw throughout the year. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Vicki. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Vicki, for putting this together. I am wondering, though, with the holiday Mondays, if we would move to the 2nd and the 4th week for the meetings, Committee of the Whole and the council meetings, we would miss those holiday Mondays where we're then having to do our council meetings on the Tuesday. Is that open for discussion or that's not gonna ever happen?
That would be a decision of this council. It would require an amendment to our procedure bylaw to reschedule those meeting dates on a permanent basis.
Any discussion with that? I do know, once you start changing dates, you're going to change all committee meetings that are happening. Because these have been set this way for so long that people book those other Mondays for certain things.
And I understand that. It's just that occasionally just to have that extra day to juggle, you know, personally, but also I'm wondering for the staff, is it difficult to try and do your job when you've had the Monday off? And then now you're hustling back on Tuesday for the council meetings.
They're for this package, it starts on the Wednesday is when the pressure's on to start making it happen, the previous Wednesday. By the Monday, it's all set. Sherry, did you want to comment?
No, I was just exactly that. Our pressures as staff is the week before, not the day of council, to be honest. It's a matter of last week, getting it out and or getting the reports, getting them reviewed, and getting them out. So it's the week before that is the pressures for us.
So then that leaves the long weekend to read the package for the Tuesday then for council as well.
Yes. Any comments with that? Councillor Cable?
Thank you, Worship. I would certainly be open to the second and fourth if that was the wish of council. It really would not impact me at all. And, you know, I think that if that fits better in other people's schedules, then that would be fine. I don't know if there's a lot of conflict that would create. It doesn't seem to be a huge difference on our schedule.
Go ahead, Vicky.
Having it changed to the second and fourth would reduce the time that our staff actually has to prepare their reports and put the agenda together. So it would be an even bigger time crunch, for us to get that prepared and out in time.
Because you're working on the short week, right? I'll put it out there. What's your thoughts? We would have to have the procedure bylaw come back. We would change it. I can see there's some conferences it's going to affect. So, but that's up to this council. We can vote on it. Or not vote on it. We can ask staff to bring back a report to see what it would look like, but I know already, I've already had, well, Grey County is already set. I've already had 2 other boards that have set for 2024. So if we're going to do this, we need to do it now. So. Your thoughts? Councillor Fleet, then Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm fine the way it is. I think it puts a lot more stress on staff.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I'm supportive of keeping it the way it is, just consistency and keeps us on the same path we've been on.
Any Councillor Hawking? You're muted there still, Dave.
Thank you. I'm in favor of keeping it the way it is.
Councillor Sacco?
Ditto.
Okay. So Councillor Hudson, you're I think if it was brought back, it would not be carried, but.
And that's fine. I don't want to hamper ongoing, having people that are actually still working, have it be a deterrent when the meetings are for them to throw their hat in the ring in the future.
Okay. Thank you for that. So discussion is ended on that report. We'll move on. Item 14.6 is the Town of Hanover leaf collection notice. And I will just say it's going to start the week of October 23rd until the end of November, unless it snows. Right, Ron? Public Works staff will collect leaves placed at the curbside as time permits. You have to remember the people who are collecting leaves are the same people who are plowing our roads and sidewalks. Leaves must be placed in paper compostable bags only. They will not be collected or picked up in plastic bags. And twigs and small branches are not collected either and may be taken to the landfill site free of charge. So don't be putting any twigs or branches in those brown compostable bags. So anything else I should add there, Ron, or that's enough?
Oh, that clarifies it.
Good. Thank you. All right, item 14.7. This is the Grey County Council and Committee of the Whole highlights from October 12th. And during that meeting, the Center Grey Health Services Foundation did thank the Grey County Council for their contributions to the newly opened hospital in Markdale. And that will be recognized through a naming of the ambulatory care department at the hospital. And Grey County did contribute $1 million to the project through a combination of donated land and funding. We also heard from the integrity commissioners. We heard the annual report, and that is the same lawyers, Principal Integrity, who is our commissioner here in Hanover. Council supported a new Grey County Economic Development, Tourism and Culture Master Plan. It's titled The Great Reset. And it's a 5-year action plan for economic development and for Grey Roots Museum and Archives. And if you do get a chance, click on the link. There's a lot of good information in it. And then I'll just conclude with the last one. In follow-up to direction to Grey County staff to approach the Blue Water District School Board regarding the possible purchase of an inactive school track field in Meaford for the purpose of future affordable housing. Staff advised that the opportunity was discussed with the school board and no further action would be taken. Provincial legislation requires that school boards must sell surplus land at fair market value. So after some very good discussion, it was decided that the county, and I recently read that Meaford, the municipality of Meaford, is going to also advocate with the Ministry of Housing and the Ministry of Education, because they are in actuality working against each other. The Ministry of Housing is saying we need houses, we need people to develop the land, and the Education is saying we have to have fair market value for the property. And here's an instance where the county and the municipality of Meaford would work together to purchase that land at a reasonable cost and would be able to build affordable housing. But at fair market value, it's not feasible. So it was a good discussion. So, and open to any questions for that. Deputy Mayor, comments, questions?
Thank you, Worship. Just to follow up to the last meeting that I was asked how many ambulances that the county actually has. And I know I shared that with the rest of council, but for anybody that might be listening, the county has 15 fully stocked ambulances, 4 ERV pickups and 5 ERV Explorers, which are an SUV type vehicle. So they have a total of 24 vehicles, 15 of those being fully equipped ambulances.
And we have 115,000 people in Grey County that are using those ambulances. So they're busy. All right, item 15 is counselor and staff updates that I am calling good news and celebrations. I am not going to go around the table. So I am just going to ask if you have anything to share that is not included in the minutes or the package, or you want to give a shout out to something that happened that's really good. And what I will do is start with a different counselor each time, and I will start with Counselor Hudson if you have anything to share. If not, I will ask anyone else just to raise their hand.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, I do have some things to share. The fall market that was put on September the 23rd, that was an excellent event. And kudos to those 5 gals that do that. They had organized it very well. They had it set up perfectly. Everybody was in a good mood. It was a great day. And it was really nice to meet them by helping some of those booths set their things up. Another thing that I thought was really great, the Lions Club did their steak dinner on September the 30th. And it was very gratifying to see that there were so many other service clubs supporting them. So not just all of the Lions Club, the Rotary was there, the library was there. There was a number of different groups in the area that were there to support Lions. So that was really great to see. Another thing that I participated in was the historic cemetery tour that Al Morrow puts on, and I believe it's on video as well. The Horticultural Society put that on. And for anybody that has never done that, it's a great thing to do. The history is fun because Al he knows some really odd facts about some of these people somehow. So that's a really interesting thing to do if you do have the opportunity. And then the other thing that I participated in was I went to the Elmwood Fire Hall for their fire prevention day that they had on Saturday. And again, their fire people, they all get along, was friendly. It makes my heart feel warm and fuzzy to know that we have these neighbors that are equally as, happy to work together with us as well.
Very good. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to highlight or comment or share? Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to give a shout out. I attended the Ontario Isotope Coalition presentation this morning in Owen Sound, and it was a very educational experience learning about isotopes and the role they play in diagnostic and treatment options for in the health industry. And to think that we are one of the world's largest suppliers in the Grey Bruce area for those medical isotopes. And the spin-off work and the spin-off in economic development that those operations have, and just the drive to try and make this area. And when I say this area, it goes from Tobermory to London and Hamilton, whereas we can capitalize on this technology and life-saving technology actually that's out there. And the second one is the hydrogen optimization. It's we're in a small area, but when we look at the amount of technology that's exists in the Grey and Bruce area, it just gives us a lot of hope for really great things, high-paying jobs, and a good economic development. So just wanted to share kind of a good news thing as what's going on in the area, and like we can all be excited about what's happening in the Grey and Bruce area overall. And I think it will have some very positive things for us as well, and looks good for the future.
Very good. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say a shout out to the Hanover Barons and Hanover West Grey Steelheads minor hockey system for putting on bringing the Owen Sound Attack to our P&H Center. It was a sold out crowd and it was well done. And the other shout out, I'd like to say thank you to the Hanover Branch 130 Legion ladies for putting on such a great breakfast for the mayor's breakfast. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Sacco.
I just like to comment, thank you, Your Worship, on the coffee with so-and-so that comes to the library. I think it's once a month. So I attended the one with Brandon Dobson from Parks and Recreation. And I was very sad to see that we just didn't have a very good turnout. And I'd like to encourage the public to show up for those things. Brandon did a great job talking about the age-friendly business focus that they're trying to place, and businesses will have an opportunity to go through a process of learning about how best to meet the needs of the growing seniors in our community, and getting a sticker for completing a task and that kind of thing. I think it's really worthwhile. And finally, I'd like to speak about Operation Christmas Child. We are well underway with it at this time of year. And please feel free to reach out to me if you wish to pack a shoebox. This year, Canadian shoeboxes are going to Central America and Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last call for any good news and celebration. Councillor Hudson.
Sorry, I forgot to mention earlier, the Hanover Public Library is doing a free membership for non-residents from October the 16th to the 21st. So as you all know that anyone in the municipality of Hanover does have a free membership, but for people outside of our area, there is a payment for that. So if you work in Hanover but live outside and you want to sign up for a free one-time 3-month membership, this is the week to do that. And also just reiterating Councillor Sackle's information about the annual book sale that's happening at the Hanover Raceway this weekend. So Thursday night viewing, $10 a ticket if you want to get your early bird access. And then sale days are Friday and Saturday, the 20th and 21st from 9 until 8 p.m. and 9 until 5 p.m.
Thank you. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going back to the last item. If there is an opportunity to support the municipality of Meaford's plea to the Ministry of Education, I would think that that would be something that Hanover Council would definitely be interested in, considering that we were in a similar situation with the sale of the former John Diefenbaker School a few years ago. So that would seem awfully relevant for us. One thing I would note would be that from September the 25th to the 27th, the Agricultural Society Hall Committee conducted interviews with potential architectural firms for the design and the contract administration for their new hall, which is going to be located in the former casino location. And so a recommendation is forthcoming to their board meeting, which is taking place on Wednesday. And so the society is excited to get this project moving forward. And I also attended the Brockton Truth and Reconciliation event, which was on September the 30th. And several members of the Nawash community and the Nawash Band Council were in attendance and spoke about the lasting impacts that residential schools have had on their family and on their community at large. The only other thing I would note is that Saugeen Hospice had a well-attended annual general meeting, and it's great to see that project continuing to move forward. And I believe that Saugeen Hospice will be coming to make a delegation to council in the upcoming months.
Thank you. And now I'll ask staff if there's anything you want to share that's happening or what's going on before our next council meeting.
I would just share for our listening public and council that this is local government week as through Association of Municipal Clerk Treasurers of Ontario. So you're going to see posts on a daily basis highlighting a different department. So it just provides some insight to the work that our staff do on a daily basis with council support.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Item 16 is planning and other meetings. Of course, they're listed on this agenda, the dates and times, and also on our website. Dates to remember and announcements. The next committee of the whole meeting is November 6th at 4 p.m. The next regular council meeting is November 20th at 4 p.m. And the trick or treat trail is October 31st from 3:30 till 5 p.m. At this time, I'll ask if there's any notices of motion. Seeing none, we do have a closed meeting. And the recommendation is that the council of the town of Hanover meet in closed session in order to address matters pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality. So I need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Fleet and Councillor Sackle. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So we'll just take a